Imaginary Gift II. Hi, I'm CCal from CcalTCG. Imaginary gifts have had a big change recently, and there's a lot of conversation going on. There's also a lot of very important things that aren't being brought up, because everyone's so trigger happy to say things like, Accel is broken now! Clearly, Force 2 is going to be the meta for the foreseeable future, and, probably most prominently, well, Protect is useless now. Well, I, on the contrary, want to state that you're dumb, because Accel was always broken. But, all jokes aside, there is a bunch of relatively simple interactions that have been brought into play that'll likely change what we fundamentally know about current standard meta. But, in order to properly take in this information, we're gonna need to preface this with something that a small, tiny amount of people in the Vanguard community might not agree with. And that is that Bushiroad will try their best to balance the game. Yup. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Correct. Okay. So let's quickly look at this argument, give it a little listen, maybe debunk some, if not all, of the points that people have to say about that statement. A, we can't really predict what Bushiroad wants to be meta until everything is revealed. And 2, we know that if Bushiroad doesn't at least try to balance the game, that'll lead to sales losses in specific sets, and we know that they don't want to not make money. And, 3, if we don't trust Bushi to make smart decisions, we're setting a negative opinion for our own community, and new players won't want to start playing the game if we just complain about it. It also means that we might be complacent to Bushiroad's mistakes that they may make in the future, and that's not a good relationship to have with the company that makes the game that we love and want to see grow. So, without further ado, let's get on to Imaginary Gift II, the Squeakquel. Alright, so for those who don't know yet, in roughly about 10 seconds, let me tell you what the new Imaginary Gifts do and their immediate rulings. Force 2. On the Vanguard circle and rearguard circle, the unit on this marker's critical becomes 2. This marker cannot stack, because why would it become 2 twice? It's still 2. Boosting units also never transferred crits, so I doubt it'll do that now. Be ridiculous. Accel 2. On acquisition, you draw a card, and the unit on this extra rearguard circle gets 5k power. Protect 2. The rearguard on this marker gets a bonus 5k power and 10k shield during both players' turns. We should assume that the intercept units keep the extra shield when moved to the guardian circle, and that cards don't gain the intercept ability. The main catch about these new imaginary gifts is that once you acquire a specific gift like Force 2, you are no longer able to acquire its other variant like Force 1 for the remainder of the match. Now, before we start going, Force 2 is going to be the meta, let's look at the current basis for Bushiroad's meta and see where they might be going with this and why these cards are an improvement for the metagame. By now, we should have a general grasp on the rock, paper, scissors meta. The theory that Accel can break through Protect's shields through multiple attacks, Force can out-resource field control and outpower Accel, and Protect can shield against Force's large numbers. Obviously this is a basic and more simplistic version, but overall it has an accurate representation of matchups. Now, another basic principle is first turn priority. The idea that the player who goes first has an advantageous stance over the other player because they acquire their markers faster, they reach a better board state faster, and have card advantage, and they also get to set the pace for the rest of the game. Alright, so you got those basic principles in your head? Good, because now they're wrong. Thanks to Imaginary Gift II. Alright, starting with Protect. Known for having its weak stance against Accel clans, the best new advantage from Protect 2 is that we can see them not having a problem against multi-attack decks that can't reach high numbers. We all know how deadly it is as an Accel player for your opponent to hit a defensive trigger. Now, think about how the opponent might not even have to hit that trigger for some scenarios. That means, in those scenarios, it's more required to have a good board setup for the Accel player, overall setting the pacing of the game a little closer to Protect's favor than before. Another benefit we see is actually in Protect decks that we don't currently see in the meta. Think Baskirk or NLK. Why don't we see them? Because these decks get punished for not being able to reride optimally as often as other Protect decks. What originally made them not meta for not regularly getting PGs, now they can more reliably sit on their optimal grade 3 until another optimal reride is accessible. Now into Accel clans. We already know their inherent weaknesses against Force. I mean, their numbers are really big, we have to drop additional resources to prevent taking large amounts of damage. Also, they're likely to have some sort of control, and as an Accel clan, you aren't typically able to reliably gain card draw or field building, unless you draw into like key cards, or you keep specific key cards on the board, or if you're Murakumo. But now there's a way to combat that. Giving all Accel clans the ability to draw an extra card almost every turn, it can really go the extra mile with a push-centric deck if you have a higher chance to draw into ace cards. Now for a little bit more of nuance, so to speak, we can argue that Accel 1 and 2 will benefit different types of Accel decks. Aggressive decks will benefit more from the Tenkei power like Aquaforce or Nova Grappler or Pale Moon, while Accel 2 we can see benefiting control-style decks like Murakumo, Tachikaze, and Narukami, who kinda need access to their key cards. Okay, so Force 2, this one's a little less linear than the others, but, you know, bear with me. Its matchups may require a specific board state to find itself being useful. What we want in a reverse rock, paper, scissors matchup for Force 2 is to help build a board state of crit pressure and not chip damage, and somehow flip the table on Protect. But that might not be the case. As it seems, Force 1 might only be better than Force 2 in the Protect matchup and maybe the Accel 1 matchup. But since the most notable Force decks are already able to hit high numbers reliably, Force 2 can come out to have a good matchup against Protect 2, Accel 1 and 2, and Force 1. Now you might be thinking, that might be a little bit too much of an upgrade for Force, but realize that there is kind of a fallout point, seeing as you could only place 3 effective ones on the field, and maybe that alongside however Bushiroad makes new support for the game, it might still allow the game to be relatively healthy balance-wise. There's also a last thing that might shift entirely how you choose your gift, but that'll have to do with the last thing I want to bring up, turn priority. The concept of turn priority might no longer be the case with the introduction of Imaginary Gift II. What we might have to introduce into the fundamentals of Cardfight Vanguard Standard is the idea of counterpicking. It's not really all rock, paper, scissors anymore. Now we have to think in what matchups can having turn priority influence your imaginary gift choice, and the idea that if you go second, you might actually have an unseen advantage of picking the imaginary gift, which would give you better odds against your opponent's gift, knowing that they can't change their gift for the rest of the game. Mind blown, am I right? That was a small blown. That means that at a higher level of play, you now have to incorporate another well of knowledge in order to keep up with the metagame, meaning every one of your matchups and knowing to do depending on what turn you start. But if you're a little bit more on the casual side, say you want to smash some locals, win against your friends, you know, that kind of stuff, here's a general guide, thanks to the help of some of the best players over on Team Vision. It's right there, just look at that. The straight lines means that they're like relatively even matchup, the arrows means it beats it. It's some big brain crayons over there. But wait a second, I think I've seen that shape before. No, it can't be. What does it mean? Alright, so that's about it. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. Hopefully that you can actually take this information and be a bit more prepared for when Imaginary 2 actually comes out. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's Cal from CcalTCG. Don't forget to hit that like button, smash that comment button, subscribe. Is that Team Vision? Oh god! Oh my god! It's Team Vision! They're coming! No! Oh, I read the guides! The Shadow Paladin guide was really good, honestly. Oh my god, the Royal Paladin oh, that was... Oh god, no, it's coming! Get it! Ah! But if you're a little more on the casual side, so to speak, you know, you just want a general concept to smash some locals or, you know, win against your friends, here's a general guide thanks to the help of some of the... Good timing, I already messed up.